Welcome to folks that are trickling in. Happy Wednesday. We will give it a few minutes for folks to hop on, so feel free to get situated, but it's good to see everybody. See, hi, I saw Mary Elizabeth hop on. James, good to see you all. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Hector. Welcome, welcome. Give it a couple more minutes for folks to trickle in, but happy Wednesday. Hope everyone's doing well. Sarah, Steph, do you think we should give it a couple more minutes for folks to trickle in?
I think maybe we give it another minute or two, and then I think we can start our usual introductions, and I'm sure other folks will filter in.
Sounds good.
And good timing because I actually see a question from Hector about uploading CSC meetings to YouTube. And I just wanted to let everyone know all of our meetings are live streamed and they're all uploaded on YouTube like regularly. So you can find the whole archive of our meetings all on YouTube, which I think maybe Team Castor or Sia, if you don't mind dropping the link to our YouTube channel where folks can find all those videos. That would be awesome. Thank you.
Great question, Hector. And I see more folks hopping on. Hi, Nate. Happy Wednesday. Hi, Debbie. Happy Wednesday. So, yeah, I think I will go ahead and get started with our introductions and housekeeping and let folks trickle in. But again, it's good to see everybody. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to your 66th CSC meeting and the last meeting of the 2025 year, which is crazy to say out loud. My name is Jared Zachary, and I'm joined today by my colleague Liz Lev, who will be helping us tonight as Amy Ramos is out this evening. We are excited to be facilitating tonight's meeting and want to extend our gratitude to you all so much. So much has been accomplished this year to create better air quality for the city of Stockton, and we hope you all feel proud of the amazing work you've done. We can't believe it's already November, and we hope everyone is staying cool and is looking forward to the holiday season as it approaches. In terms of how we'll spend our time together this evening, this month's agenda is designed to provide the CSC with a high-level review of SERP incentive measure programs, followed by an overview of the residential wood smoke reduction program. We're super excited for tonight's meeting, and as always, feel free to provide any feedback or ask any questions by typing in the chat or raising your hand to speak. Now we will go ahead and walk through some of our meeting logistics, and although this is familiar to many of you, it's always nice to have a refresher. Are you all able to see my screen? Awesome. So again, before we get the meeting started, please feel free to mute yourself and make sure your full name and organization are showing as your screen name. To change your screen name, you're going to click on the top right side of your picture or video. CSC members, please use the naming convention CSC first and last name, such as CSC Jane Doe, R if you are a resident. And all other folks and participants, feel free to do first, last name, and then affiliation, such as Jake Smith AD, Jake Smith Card, or P for general public. All other organizations, write your name. And note that you might see one of us ping you just to help with clarifying names, as this is helpful for us for attendance tracking. If you're linking by phone or audio, you can click the caret next to the unmute, click switch to phone audio, and then join us by phone call or the call me option. Again, this is just another reminder to update your screen name. If you need help, you can message anyone from the Hardering Company team or from the Air District, just ask. And again, this helps us for attendance tracking. We want to remind folks of our virtual meeting etiquette. So we want to remind folks to please stay on mute unless you're speaking or planning to speak. If you're joined by phone, you can use *6. Please raise your blue Zoom hand to ask questions during a presentation or a Q&A. And if you're joining by phone, you will use *9. Residents in the stipend program should stay for at least 75% of the meeting to be eligible for their stipend. And so if we take up our typical 90 minutes or more, that's 90 minutes of a 2-hour meeting. And then again, just please remember to state your name before sharing a comment. Just allows for a smooth conversation. And then again, we always want to ground in our goals of being respectful and having respectful dialogue. And so we want to help achieve the meeting goals by focusing on solutions and productive dialogue. We want to step up and step back by letting everyone participate. We want to remind folks that it's okay to disagree, but please be respectful, empathetic, and civil. We know folks are excited to get their point of view across, and we want to remind folks to keep comments brief and to the point, to allow enough time for everyone to participate. And then again, we're really grounded in being respectful, and so we want to encourage folks that you can attack the problem, but not the person, by honoring everyone's humanity and dignity. And then lastly, everyone's here for the same cause because they love Stockton, because they care about the air quality. And so we really want to build consensus and find shared values to continue seeking common ground. So for our agenda tonight, we are currently in welcome and introductions. We will then move to reviewing the action items tracker. We'll have our first agenda item of the SERP incentive measure strategic planning. At 6 p.m., we'll transition to the residential wood smoke reduction program. And then we'll close out with our typical items of standing updates, wrap up next steps, and then public comment. And then again, we always like to adhere to our group agreements, but at any time you might see some of us stepping in just to make sure that we're grounded in those. And as always, we're always welcome to feedback. And so if there's anything you want to add, feel free to email the facilitation team. But with that, we will now pass, I think I'm passing to Stephanie, who will open us up for welcoming remarks.
Thank you, Jared, and good evening, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Happy November. I can't believe we're here, but we're at this time where this is kind of this is our final meeting of the year. And around this time, I'm always super excited and grateful to work on this presentation because it is always such a fun representation and kind of collection of all the work that you all have been working on through this past year. We'll have some really great updates just about the progress we've made on SERP implementation. And then also some opportunities as we head into the next year of some work we can, continue to dig into with SERP implementation to continue making progress again on all the clean air strategies that you all have in your SERP. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steph. With that, I think we can transition to our action items tracker. And so we'll spend a few moments reviewing the action items tracker. As some of you all are familiar, that tracker is a tool that we use to help develop transparency and accountability between the Air District and the community. The Air District is continually updating this tracker to ensure that your voices are heard and the progress towards implementing your suggestions. As a reminder, at the end of every meeting, we share action items and encourage any members to add any action items that should be tracked. As Rocio provides updates, please feel free to ask any questions for clarification. And with that, I will pass it to Rocio.
Thank you, Jared. Hi, everyone. This is Rocio. I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen and we can get started with the action items. Okay, can focus on my screen? Thank you. So today we have action items in the pending and completed section. So I'll go ahead and start in the pending section. And as you all might remember, the city of Stockton did attend last month's meeting to give an update on the bike lane project. And folks are interested in also receiving some pictures about the overpass on Center and El Dorado. So we did reach out to the city of Stockton for these photos, and once we receive those, we'll make sure to share them with the CSC. Now moving on to the next section and completed. And so for this action item, there was an ask from a CSC member to get an update on the Clean Air Rooms program and to see where the air purifiers have been distributed in Stockton. So we will be having an update on this in today's presentation. And then moving on to the next action item. And so for this action item, the district did look into the requirements for the bike lane project to look upon the maintenance contract. And we were able to confirm that the city of Stockton will maintain the improvements made in the sidewalk and bike lane infrastructure along Center Street, El Dorado Street, Hazelton Avenue, and French Camp Turnpike throughout the 10 years of the project life with the Valley Air District. And I'll go ahead and pause here to see if there's any questions on any of the action items that I just reviewed.
Yeah, could you just repeat that last one? You just read this. Is this what you just read there, Rocio?
Yes, Mary
Okay,
Elizabeth,
thanks.
for the action item 65.2.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I can go over it again.
no,
So
that's fine. I didn't hear the part of it and it seemed like it was mostly this. So thanks.
no worries. Don't see any more hands raised. I can pass it back to Jared, but if anyone has any questions later on, feel free to reach out or put in the chat and we can follow up.
Yeah, any additional questions, folks? Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Rocio. And remember, you all feel free to, if any questions come later, feel free to type that in the chat and we'll make sure to address those. With that, I think we are ready to transition to our first agenda item of the night, which is the SERP Incentive Measure Strategic Planning agenda item. As a quick refresher, at the end of each year, the Air District provides an update on SERP incentive measure, progress, and highlights key project timelines. As we approach the end of the 5th year and moving towards the 6th, the goals of this agenda item is to clarify the standing of incentive measures and seek initial feedback on funding strategies and the direction for allocating remaining funds to support the outstanding SERP measures. As the Air District presents, please feel free to share any questions or concerns by typing in the chat or raising your hand. With that, I will turn it over to the Air District.
Thank you, Jared. And this is Stephanie. I wanted to thank also a couple, especially Margot, and I think a couple other CSC members that have kind of supported this type of item of just kind of taking a moment, stepping back and trying to understand kind of where we are collectively with all of the incentive measures that we have in the SERP, and just to understand a little bit more about kind of ones that are going well, what are strategies that we can work on to continue moving forward the implementation. Today's presentation that you'll see, again, with no huge decisions I think need to be made tonight, but I think I just want folks to know this is an open conversation and discussion. There will be lots of updates for you all and kind of lots for you to consider, but I just want to make sure no one feels pressured that we have to make any decision tonight. This is just some early kind of planning that we want to do with you all. This is an approach that we actually took with some of our year one communities. Two of them are 2 year one communities, which are Fresno and Shafter. We did this same kind of presentation and had the same kind of open discussion about kind of, what does year 5 look like? How can we make sure to continue to wrap up all of these SERP measures that we have to make sure that these benefits that we have through the SERP are in the community. And so I'm going to share my screen and get us started. And get us started. I do want to kick it off by just kind of summarizing kind of where we're at so far. So as a reminder to you all, in your Community Emissions Reduction Program, or SERP, there is just a little over 31 million allocated to support the community, a whole host of pollution, PM 2.5 and NOx that we get are looking to kind of reduce in the community. And all of our commitments are underway. A good handful of those, 19, are related to incentives. And we also have a handful of measures that are related to enforcement and permitting, outreach, and then also kind of like partnerships with other agencies. This is a graphic that you've seen before, and it was interesting for me to see because I think between kind of last year when we shared this and this year, we are continuing to kind of see the growth, which is a good, obviously, the thing that we want to see in this, which is with that budget that I mentioned of a little over 31 million. We have at this point a good chunk of projects that we have kind of those funds obligated in projects. They're in purifiers and homes, lawnmowers that are being, traded in and like out in the community that are mowing lawns, car replacements, and some of those are also in funds that are kind of obligated or committed to projects, such as like our urban greening projects. We have also a good amount of funding that is kind of in progress. These are measures, and I'll kind of break up what this looks like a little bit more. But these are, for example, a large part of this is in a lot of our residential measures that are still underway. They're going well, but we still are seeking out kind of applicants. And there's just a kind of a small amount at the end there that is kind of a couple of measures that we're still trying to identify pathways kind of for the measure with you all. Some of those measures that we have completed or committed on the incentive side, all super exciting to get these underway. We have our bike lane project that we worked with the city of Stockton on, a big heavy duty charging infrastructure project in the boundary. We also have a huge amount of commercial lawn and garden equipment that has been swapped out at Stockton Unified that's in operation now. I think 2 meetings ago we saw the video kind of showing off the equipment. Also kind of we have committed funding for a car share program in the community. And then also, again, committed funds for projects that are underway are for our urban greening and vegetative barriers, which over the last few months, we've had every so often Little Manila come give updates about the work that they're doing. And I know that they're ramping up a lot of work to hopefully start planting actually like soon next year. And just to be clear, we just added some language here just so folks would kind of know what we mean when we say the terms. A lot of times with grant programs, there's lots of like kind of jargony language about like obligated funds and things like that. We tried to make it super simplified by just saying completed and or committed incentive funds. And what that means is either the funding has been spent and is actively providing benefits to the community, whether or not that's like a lawnmower that's been replaced or again a purifier that is in a home. And then some of those projects that you saw in that bucket are also funds that have been contracted or committed. Those projects tend to take a little bit longer to implement, but it's set aside specifically already to do that work. This is a kind of a different view of that funding. We have, again, these measures. This is all the funding that we have committed through those completed incentive measures, just a different kind of view graphically of what those, the amount of funding and projects looks like. And I'll actually pause here because this is going to take us that was kind of an overview of some of the projects that we've actively kind of completed as a group. And I'm actually going to talk about kind of what else there is in the SERP that we're still working on. But I see Margot has a question.
Hi, yeah. Would you go back to slide 3 and just talk a little bit more again about what's obligated? You have obligated and then you have funded in progress.
Yes. And so obligated, and again, this is that
things that are completed are not in this bucket right here.
No, they are. So sorry, that was the one place I should have replaced that obligated. I was just saying we use jargony terms and I should have replaced it right there. That dark green bar is projects that are completed or committed. So that means that the purifier is replaced, the vehicle has been, exchanged, or there's a couple of projects that we have under contract where we have set away that funding to allow that work to happen, such as like urban greening or vegetative barriers.
Okay, thank you.
I'll get into the more of the categories too. I think this will continue to like grow and build out in the rest of the presentation too. We're going to talk very specifically about kind of the next bucket, which is kind of that lighter green funding in progress as well. And so again, like I said earlier in the meeting, I don't want to,
I'm
again,
sorry. Could you go back to 6? Now that I understand better. So these are all completed.
completed or committed.
Okay, so which ones? Okay, so the vegetative barrier, the greening is all committed.
Mm-hmm.
This charging infrastructure, is that completed or committed?
Completed.
Where did that go?
It went to I think the company's name officially it's Sunrise Sanitation, which I do believe, oh, I'm trying to think of the name of it's your local kind of trash collector. I'm sure there's a more technical term for that, but
Okay, so and that's for trucks in the district, in
yes,
the boundary.
exactly.
And how many chargers did they get for this $1 million?
I do believe we have the update because we actually provided pictures and in a presentation we talked about it. I do believe it was 2 heavy duty chargers, but that's something I'd want to confirm just to be sure. I do think team maybe between if we can maybe look at I know we've given a presentation on it probably a few meetings ago. So I think if we find it during the meeting, we can drop that into the chat. But these
Okay.
are just so to help clarify, these aren't kind of your like chargers for like your
Yeah.
cars. These
Yeah.
are for like kind of big heavy duty trucks.
Okay, and then the car share program, that was the money that we gave to the uh, housing authority.
Correct.
And do they have any monitoring that's required for that program? Is there any monitoring?
So the car share program is underway. Work with that measure is underway. And as is pretty typical for kind of all of our kind of grant projects, there is annual reporting that's required as a part of it.
Okay, do you think that we could have like a list and then a link to annual reports
Yeah, and that's something, like I
for
said,
each
Mary,
measure?
this is something that we haven't, it's not to a point where that the project is kind of underway yet. So we won't have those available yet, but I do think we can certainly follow up when it is the case that the project's underway and kicked off, to kind of follow up on the reporting for that.
Okay, so here we have roughly $5 million. And in that slide that Margot wanted you to look back on, I don't know what number it was, there was something like 20 million. Yeah, or 12 million. So there's 7 more million that are funds obligated that aren't showing up on that slide.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. I think we'll maybe dig into this a little bit more in the presentation.
Okay.
If that's
All
okay.
right. Thank you.
Yep.
This is Dr. Farrell. You said Sunrise. Sunrise, I understand, is in the Sacramento area. In Stockton, we have Waste Management and the Republic.
Yes.
Those are the two.
This is
Where
definitely.
did this money go to for Sunrise, and they're not in the Stockton area?
Yeah, good question, Dr. Farrell. This is Stephanie, and I'm glad you said that. It is Republic, and their parent company is Sunrise Sanitation, but it's Republic that's actually in the boundary. That was the what I said, that name, Sunrise Sanitation, is the parent company to it. But it was Republic that's in the community that's the company that is using the charger and has those heavy duty electric vehicles that's charging. So it is, just to confirm, it is something that's in the boundary. It's not a project in Sacramento. It's in the Stockton boundary.
And I'm sorry, this is Margot. And are they transitioning to electric? Is that their commitment?
Yes. They have, and sorry, and not even, I mean, I do think there's other phases underway, but they have transitioned already, and I think have a plan to continue to transition.
Thank you.
Perfect. If it's okay, I'll keep going. And I might actually go through a couple slides at a time and then pause for questions, because I do think some of it might make, I think, it might help to have the full picture of a couple of slides, and then we can continue to take questions throughout. But I do see, so honored today. We have Deldy Reyes with the Office of Community Air Protection. We're so honored to have her in this meeting today. I actually also
Oh, you're too kind. You're too kind, Stephanie. Thank you for that. No, I just wanted to go back to the slide and make a note. It's great to see you all. I do tune into these meetings, but sometimes I'll just catch it on the YouTube. So one thing on the 5 years for the CERT, that actually is not in AB617. It's in our blueprint. So it's confusing. Our state law for AB617 talks about 5 years every time we have to update the statewide strategy or the blueprint. But for the CERPs, the timeframes that we're given in the law are now we have up to 2 years for you communities to work with the air districts to write the CERP. But the law didn't really say how much time we all had to implement the CERP. And so CARB filled that in the blueprint by putting forward 5 years as the time frame that we thought that the CERPs could be completed. So just wanted to make that little distinction, Stephanie.
Does that, I'm sorry, this is Margot. Does that mean it's kind of open-ended, or does that mean it is 5 years after the 2 years of preparation?
We want all the CERP strategies that can be finished to be finished. And if it means that we go beyond 5 years, that's fine. We want to see conclusion of all of the strategies in the CERP as much as possible. And that's why Stephanie's going to talk to you now about transitioning into year 6.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you.
And then I just want to, before I move in, because we're going to this is kind of one part of the presentation, kind of fun things that we've been working on, things that are completed. So I just want to follow up on a couple things. The Sunrise, the question about so this is Republic, but also their parent company, Sunrise Sanitation. They installed 2 level 2 single port chargers and 9 dual port DC fast chargers. That's what that acronym stands for. At a facility in the Boundary. That information's in the chat. And then I did also just want to clarify the graphic before we kind of move on about the obligated funding. In there, so there's 2 different cuts of there's lots of different ways. We try to show all the data in a fun graphical way, but just so there's a little bit of clarity, these are just a handful of the programs that are kind of fully committed and fully obligated. This cut of the funding that has 12 million includes completed projects from CERT measures that are not fully done yet. So in there's the purifier projects, there's the lawnmowers that we've replaced, there's the vehicles that we've done. All of those will also be in here, but because we haven't fully completed those measures, that's why they're just not in this graphic. Okay, I think those are all the questions that we have right at this time. So I'm going to take us to, it was a good transition because I'm going to hop into actually kind of a little bit of what Deldy mentioned about what kind of, as we start to think about kind of year 5. And I just want to, again, preface that this is just an early conversation and an open discussion we want to have for you all. I know that I just want to make sure that folks aren't feeling the sense that after these 5 years, we're going to be like, bye, like we're done here. Because I want you to certainly know that's not going to happen. And that's not happening in Shafter. That's not happening in Fresno. We are still actively working with those communities to kind of continue out measures. But again, based on kind of state law, the CERP or the blueprint, as Deldy kind of mentioned, the CERP is a 5-year plan. The CERP was adopted, by CARB in July of 2021. And that is a date that we kind of have, is why we kind of started at that date is because that date where the CARB board actually adopted the CERP was really the date that allowed us to start to kick off the whole process. It was when we started to start to use the funding. It was when we started to work on the project plans. All of that process kind of kicked off there. And so taking that date, 5 years would theoretically take us to July of 2026. So as you all know, we're not there yet. We have a whole half of year, but even before then. But again, we just wanted to start to have these conversations kind of early and often with you all. That way we can kind of start this iterative discussion about kind of how we want to continue to finish out some of those CERT measures. So the goal of today's presentation is to understand kind of where we're at with incentive measures, highlight again that progress that we've made so far, and then discuss how we want to continue to work together as we kind of transition into year 6. An approach that we took in Fresno and Shafter that we found actually really helpful is for those, we talked a lot about completed measures just in those slides before. What we found really helpful in our conversations with Fresno and Shafter is to start to think about categorizing some of these other incentive measures that we have that are still ongoing into different categories so we know kind of how to operate within them. And so we've kind of split this up into 4 different categories. I'm going to walk into detail into all of them. The first category are measures that we want to continue to fund until they're complete. And so we definitely, even beyond, like Delgy mentioned, it's not our intention that right in July we're expecting anything to really, that we're going to stop funding projects or things like that. We expect that these are measures that we will continue to fund beyond July of 2026 with kind of those allocations that are already in the CERP, and want to work with you all. Again, we want to make it an iterative process, and these are likely measures that we think will take more time, and we want to potentially reassess these even a year after that kind of 5-year mark. The second category of measures are ones that we kind of have seen a lack of interest or need for, and want to start to think with you all about where we could reallocate those funds to. The third category is a category that we definitely want to put additional focus on because they're really high emission reducing measures. So for these measures, we see high emission reduction benefits. We know they're a high priority to the CSC, so we want to continue to pursue them. And you'll see a little bit more about why that's different. Of course, all of our measures, we want to make sure that we're getting emission reductions, but these I think are a really specific set of challenges that I know you all are familiar with already. And then the fourth category is potentially to start to discuss with you all additional opportunities. And so what that might look like is just exploring additional opportunities for other emission reduction projects that could benefit the community that aren't yet included in the CERP. So what is in that first category? Again, these are projects that we are calling kind of continue. It's a category that will continue on until funding is complete. And so what's in here? The majority of these are residential incentive measures. These are all measures that are going well. Some of these programs actually opened a couple years after the CERP was finalized, like a couple years after that July of 2021 CERP approval. And so they would definitely benefit from additional time for residents to apply. And so through July of 2027, again, in this next year, we want to continue to work with partners, different community-based organizations, and the CSC to continue to push outreach for all of these measures. And so some of these include our residential air purification program. And so again, this is our clean air room programs. You all are super familiar with it. This is one that we just kicked off a couple years ago. It was one that we worked really hard in the subcommittee to kick off. And given the fact that it was only a couple years we opened it, and we're seeing a ton of really great progress and participation, this is definitely something that we don't want to stop, when it comes in July. And so that's one of the measures. A couple other ones are both of our residential programs actually similarly, they didn't open right kind of after the CERP was adopted. It took time to work on the project plan. It took time to develop out the programs. And so both the vehicle replacement and the vehicle repair program are ones that we're proposing that we want to continue these programs on. We want to continue to find more applicants. A couple other measures are replacement of wood-burning devices. I know that's a high priority to the CSC. We want to continue on with that one, as well as our residential lawn and garden program. We do hope to have another event kind of come next year with that program as well, because we know those are really popular. And then also our EV charging infrastructure. That is something that we are still actively trying to do outreach on, trying to get applicants. And we hope that what we want to do is we want to aim to finish those a year after kind of that 5th year. But we'll definitely and certainly work with you all to kind of reassess how these measures are going as we continue on. I do want to take a moment to talk about maybe some opportunities that we have with a couple of these measures and give folks a flavor of what I mean when we want to like continue and push outreach. One of those is for the Clean Air Rooms program. It was actually a really great suggestion, I think, from Mary to take a look at kind of where we've seen historically applications come through for this program. And so that's actually what you're seeing to the right, that map. What this map is showing you is the number, it's a heat map and it shows with more kind of intensity, the closer that it gets to that yellow color, that's areas that we have a lot more outreach. And then as we get kind of lower to that purple color, those are areas that we maybe have fewer applications. And it was really, this analysis was really interesting to us. I think as you can tell, really we have great coverage through most of the boundary. A lot of the areas that you don't see colors are like typically not where people live. There's like that whole area in the top is the port. We have some kind of industrial areas as well where we wouldn't expect applications to come through. But we do have some, I think, generally pretty good coverage. But I think from this map, we learned that there are certainly areas that we can continue to do some outreach in. Um, and we are something else that from this map that we found super interesting is all the opportunities that we've had to partner with agencies to do outreach. Like some of that dark area in the bottom, I really think is thanks to the really great partnerships that we have with, for example, with the Housing Authority, some of the events that we've been to with the community centers, that have really been able to kind of push the number of applicants that we've gotten. So from this, we definitely want to continue to seek other partners. If there's anyone that you know that maybe wants to do outreach through a mini grant, that's a pathway I know that we've talked about a lot of conducting, different organizations. It could be a Boy Scout troop, it could be some kind of, other community group in the area. If you know anyone that wants to do outreach, potentially maybe on the east side of the boundary, we certainly can do a mini grant for that. And we definitely want to look to expand outreach efforts kind of in the areas that we're seeing maybe lower participation. And we definitely will continue to update you all as we continue to make progress on this. I see a couple hands up, so I'll maybe pause here in case folks have questions about this.
Yeah, I saw Mary Elizabeth, you had your question in the chat and then your hand up, and then I think after Mary Elizabeth, Margot. Mary Elizabeth, you can go ahead and come off mute and ask your question, or I can.
Thanks,
Awesome.
thanks. So I guess if we go back to, I'm glad that we got this. And is there any way that this map here is like some place where we can zoom in a little bit more?
This is Stephanie. I do think that's something that we should be able to share with folks as a link to this heat map. We do want to make sure that I think that we just also want to make sure that these are folks' homes. And so we wanted to make sure that there's a little bit of privacy there, which is why we did it in this version of a heat map where you don't necessarily see applicants, you see kind of just like a, area. So I do think this is something that we should be able to share with folks in case. And yeah, you can zoom in and you can kind of take a look and the colors will change a little bit as you get closer. So definitely an interesting kind of cut of this. And I know, Mary, you yourself have done a lot of outreach in the community regarding this and you flyers. So if there's any areas that you find that from this that are interesting and you need flyers, let us know for sure.
Okay, yeah, I know. I have some flyers. But then my question is about, the money that's left in the wood burning stove fireplace.
Mm-hmm.
That this one right here. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there's been much action in this. Has there?
Yeah, this is something that we have seen every so often. I think this is exactly the time of year. This is a program that is very seasonal. As you might imagine, people are not thinking about their fireplaces when it's 100 degrees. So we typically will see during the summer months, Mary, it was a little bit quieter for this program, but we're hoping kind of now as we're entering the wood burning season, this is exactly the time that people start to think about doing their replacement. So we hope to see kind of an increase in an influx of applicants to this program.
And the response here from the Air District, it says um, that there's some other money that is available for Stockton residents for heat pump other than this 335,000.
Oh, and you know what? I do see in the chat, I think maybe Nia added a little bit. Nia, do you wanna jump in there?
Yeah, the program that's currently available for you guys under the measure that's being implemented in the Stockton community, that program currently has an electric heat pump replacement option if you are interested. So there's funding available for that if you do want to do that.
And that's
Um,
an option through this same program. This is the same pot of funding you're seeing here, Mary. I think typically a lot of
Okay.
people will go with like a natural gas insert but there is an option though for an electric heat pump as well through the same program and through this pot of funding.
Okay, and it's what is that um approximately per home?
it's for if it's your standard applicant, it's up to $3,500. If you do qualify as low income, you can get up to $5,000.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Is there any way that we can like get a uh the biggest thing that I found, on this outreach, which is why I printed out a bunch of the maps, that I can fold up and, pull out the map. And, is when you make on the next door on this, now that it's getting cooler and there'll be, some more like digital outreach on this, if we can like list out those items and then include a map that they can click, and like or a picture that they can click, and then it takes you to the boundary map, on the page that people can see, whether or not they're in the boundary. That seems to be that's why I'm telling people just to call.
Yeah.
But it that would be helpful for those that are in the boundary to make the effort, and for those that aren't in the boundary not to have to make an effort to, try to find out. That's all. Thanks.
Yeah. This is Stephanie. I do believe we have exactly the flyer that you're mentioning of where it kind of lays out the different options. And I totally hear you, Mary, that sometimes, especially when we talk about our 617 incentive funding, like it's a couple things you have to think about is like the incentives are higher, which is different from our typical programs. And then it's like there's a map to see whether or not, do I qualify? Do I not? And so we've tried our best to do specific AB617 flyers for all the residential programs that we have. So I do believe we have our fireplace change out one. So I think, team, if we can try and find that and share it with Mary. If we don't catch it in the meeting, we'll certainly email it. We can follow up in an email to everyone so that you all have it. Because this is the perfect time for folks. I'm sure Nia, like in her flow of like in processing these applications, would hope that they come in, throughout the whole year. But I think this is exactly the time that people start to think about it. So tell your neighbors, tell your friends. And we have, yes, I see Heather is saying that we can send printed copies to Mary. So we can do that. And we can send a digital copy to everyone as well following this meeting.
I was thinking about, so I'm really, like on the city, and this was one of the things that I um, at that meeting that I went to recently, it's has changed. So we used to have somebody from the city, that would regularly come to the meetings. And they don't do that anymore. And there's lots of times, where since all of the residents, mostly all with the exception of Box Track, are in the city of Stockton, it would be very helpful if we could start to utilize some of the city social media and even the Ask Stockton, that so if there's like some kind of a map, that shows the parts of Stockton, I think that maybe reach out to the city manager or reach out to the mayor's office. SB's over there. Christina, who, served for many years on the air district, we need to get them activated to help us with these residential programs.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mary Elizabeth. That sounds helpful. I want to remind folks that Liz is taking notes of feedback. So yeah, again, this is just like initial like high level reflections. I want to be mindful of time to make sure that we get to everyone's questions. And also we have a couple more categories. So Margot, I did see your hand up, and then so maybe Margot, and then we can see what the next categories are.
Yeah, I appreciate Mary's questions because that was part of mine, starting with the map. And that I'm taking it that map is interactive. Is that right, Stephanie?
Mhm.
And is it detailed in terms of what are they mainly air purifiers, or is it air purifiers and fireplace replacements?
That's something specific we did for air purifiers out of a request we heard from Mary last month of just trying to understand where we're seeing, participation through the boundary.
That's really good. Thank you. And I need to say too that I think heat pumps, because it's not been part of our SERP, that is not something that would be under our purview. That's under the air district's incentive, right? It's not something under AB 617.
It's an option through the program, it is.
So for instance, I'm in the district. I do not have a fireplace. So I have nothing to replace. So does that mean I'm SOL?
It's definitely for the program itself, it would need to be a replacement for us to actually achieve emission reductions. So we would have to be for your project, you would have to remove like a wood burning device. So if you don't have one, then you're correct. We don't have funding for just the purchase of an electric heat pump.
But potentially someone could put in a heat pump and they could continue to use a wood burning fireplace.
If you have a wood burning fireplace, we could absolutely replace it with an electric heat pump if that's an option you'd like to go through.
Okay. Just don't understand heat pumps. Okay. Thank you.
Margot, if you have any follow-up questions though, or like Nia's an awesome resource. If maybe you want to, if there are questions that you think of, or maybe if you want to talk offline, I'm happy to follow up if there's something specific about heat pumps.
Yeah, I have to dwell on it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
okay.
Pumps.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Nia. And I think in the interest of time, I'm going to take us on to the next category. The second category of measures that we have are ones that we have seen kind of a evidence of like a lack of interest or need among these measures. They're ones that we have worked as as a district and a CSC have explored opportunities, and again haven't seen that kind of the need or kind of the interest. A couple examples are. These are kind of the two measures that I wanted to highlight. One of those being EV mechanic training, and the second being truck idling plugins. Four things that are in this measure, this category two, where we see kind of that evidence of lack of interest or need. We want to work with you all about kind of exploring opportunities to reallocate these funds potentially to the remaining two categories, category three or category four, which we'll dig into a little bit more. I'll talk about these at a high level. I know some of these probably warrant some follow-up conversations and kind of some deeper dives, which we can certainly do. But I do want to kind of a high level talk about maybe some of the challenges that we've experienced with these two measures. One of those being EV mechanic training. I know a lot of folks on this call are really familiar with this. We worked super extensively in our EV mechanic training subcommittee to try and find a pathway for these funds. We worked with the dealers that were in the area. We worked with the San Joaquin County Office of Ed. We worked with other agencies that have EV mechanic training programs, like Valley Can, for example. And in that, we explored multiple avenues. And what we found, which I think is a good problem to have, is that there is actually, oh, and also something that I'll add is, of course, we worked Delta College is the kind of the big one there as well. And again, a challenge that we had personally, but that actually ended up, I think, for the community is actually a good problem to have, is there were already a lot of existing efforts that were happening through this program that were well funded. And so we didn't really see any kind of avenues of kind of funding programs. When we talked with all of these folks, we couldn't quite work out an avenue to kind of see the need, see the demand to kind of use these funds. And then truck idling plugins are a little bit of a different situation, but maybe similar to experience similar challenges to kind of things that are going on kind of in the electric and heavy duty space. We're just not seeing a lot of uptake of this technology. And I think that's due to a handful of things regarding kind of cost and also the infrastructure. I think infrastructure is a big challenge that we have come into. But that's kind of something that we've seen as well as I think between a lot of combined factors, we're not seeing a lot of individuals wanting to take advantage of truck idling plugins. So these are two measures that I think as a team, again, this is just an open discussion, no kind of proposals or anything, but just two measures that we've certainly experienced challenges in. I see a hand up, so I think maybe I'll pause because it might be specifically about, I think, this set of measures. Go ahead, Hector.
So my question was, when we're looking at the EV mechanic training, this was to provide the training. You said there's ongoing training now. Would any of this funding be considered to cover the cost of the tuition of the students going through it, or the cost of any type of materials or say tools that's required?
Yeah, that's a good question. Those are all kind of pathways that we talked about. The purpose of these funds was to help support kind of an EV mechanic training course and to allow that to kind of happen in the community. And as we kind of talked to a lot of folks, we found that, like, for example, Delta College, Valley Can, those were all folks that had actually a pretty robust program that was well funded. They weren't having challenges getting students enrolled and participating through the program. So that's kind of what we have been seeing is overall, there has been good participation. We've seen folks that are able to go through the program and aren't experiencing kind of challenges with that. And something that we want to work on is maybe if folks are interested, maybe bringing on some of those groups to talk about kind of the existing efforts that they have, if folks are just kind of interested in knowing what's going on in the community.
This is Margot. I'm sorry to butt in like this, but Hector's question is really valuable. Because would we really need to create a program, or could we scholarship some of our residents within the district to participate in this? Is, awarding some kind of stipend or scholarship to participate if
Yeah.
that's interest.
And I guess just to kind of respond to that, what we've heard kind of through our work in kind of connecting with Valley Can through Delta College, they are very well funded programs. Like I don't think it was a challenge of them providing funding for students to go through this program.
But we specifically want students from our boundaries. So can we, you know how organizations add on, you get a scholarship to nursing school or something like that, and it's like $1,000. It's not a lot, but it's 1,000, but it's from the boundaries, within the boundaries. It advertises the program and it gets it out there. Just food for thought. It may be more work than we want, but I just like the concept.
I hear that, Margot, and I know that our team is taking notes. All right, I'll continue to move us on along. The third category is what we're calling kind of an additional focus on high reduction measures. What is in these categories is measures that are very high emission, that will provide high emission reduction benefits to improve air quality in the Stockton community. These measures are estimated to be, I think in our math, about 98% of the NOx reductions that we see in the SERP. They're complex, time-intensive projects. They're ones that I know that you all are familiar with already because we've talked about them. They're projects that have a lot of moving pieces. They include kind of not just the replacement of the equipment itself, also issue kind of challenges with infrastructure. Also kind of compounding with that is kind of in this whole world, federal and state actions that have been also impacting kind of a lot of mobile source reduction efforts that are going on right now. And overall, I just want to let you all know we are working closely, and I know that we have a couple folks from CARB. We definitely want to let you know that we are working actively with CARB, kind of them being over mobile sources. to understand kind of the impacts of what these state and federal actions are having and what opportunities there can be to continue to incentivize kind of transition of high polluting technology. And so the couple measures that we have in here are the heavy duty truck replacement program, the switcher locomotives, and then also those are two measures that definitely have been impacted kind of by the state and federal actions. School buses less so, but then also this is a measure that is, of course, one that we know is a high priority to the CSC, will reduce a lot of emissions, especially in schools around children, which are a sensitive receptor. And so for these measures that have a really, really high emission reduction benefit that we know have been prioritized by the CSC, and we have, pathways that we're still trying to work out, we are recommending at this time for us to continue working on these. And of course, we will keep you closely in the loop about how they're going. But these are measures that we still recommend keeping funding in here because of the potential emission reduction benefits. We don't feel that we've hit a dead end with these measures. And so these are ones that we recommend kind of continuing on to see what pathways we can, just especially due to, like I mentioned, we know their priority to CSC members. And of course, they hit the most important part of this program, which is to reduce local emissions in the community.
Well said, Stephanie. We're not giving up.
Any thoughts on these?
This is Mark again. I won't raise my hand. I'm here. I'm sorry. I really like that we can continue on past the quote deadline of 5 years. And I really like that you're continuing to focus on these larger items, which are so serious to our area. Thank you.
Thanks, Margot, for adding that. I appreciate it. I see Jeff's hand is up.
Yeah, hi, Stephanie. Jeff Wingfield. I just wanted to ask if there's any update on how negotiations or discussions have been going with Central California Traction Company.
I would need to follow up with our team. I know that is someone that we've been kind of meeting and working with. I don't actively have a meeting tonight, but I do want to let folks know that we will provide an update after kind of we've met with them and we can bring that update.
Okay, I'll touch base with them on my side as well.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate the work that you're doing. I'm less involved I know that meetings are happening, but I don't know that I exactly know the outcome, so I'll follow up with our team.
No problem.
Go ahead, Hector.
Hello. So my question is, I know we moved some funding around. Is this the initial buckets of funds that we initially approved, or this is what's left?
Sure. That's a super, super great question. I know that we've done over the past year, especially a lot of kind of timely. Perfect. Thanks. We've done some funding reallocations. And so the numbers that you're seeing in these buckets are kind of what's remaining. So we have 6 million remaining in heavy duty truck replacement, 6.2 million in switcher locomotives. And we have actually, I'll add a little bit more detail about the electric school buses because it is a little bit different from those other two measures. We have 1.2 million remaining with electric school buses. And because 10 buses have actually already been contracted and funded through Stockton Unified. I know we've talked about this before, but just as a reminder, they are awaiting delivery of those buses. There have been some delays, unfortunately, with the manufacturer. But once they receive delivery of those, they want to test them out. And if they work out, they could be interested in additional buses. So that's something that we also want to make sure if there is interest from Stockton Unified, or not even interest, I know there's interest, but the capability to be able to do it, then we want to make sure that we can continue to finish out that measure.
Sorry, I have one more question.
Sure. Yeah.
Where we're talking about the switcher locomotives, I know, Jeff, from the port, you received some of the funding, federal funding. Was the port looking to change out their switcher locomotives?
No, that's why I was asking about Central California Traction. But no, you're talking about the EPA Clean Port funding that we got, the $110 million.
Right.
And no, locomotives were not included in that. CCTC is our Central California Traction Company is our short line railroad at the port, but they're a tenant like anybody else who's co-owned by BNSF and Union Pacific. And I know in the past there's been issues with the two Class 1 railroads agreeing on what kind of technology, unfortunately. So I thought that we'd made some progress on that, so I'm going to check back in. But to answer your question, Hector, no, the port did not apply for any locomotives in EPA clean ports.
Okay. And this 6.2 million would be enough to purchase one, or maybe half of one, or no idea what the price is.
Yeah, they are quite expensive. I'm trying to remember. Trying to remember how much they were. Hold on, I'm just looking into my notes. Yeah, I can't remember exactly.
I think we can, between Jeff, you and I, like maybe we can follow up on our sides and then we can mark that as an action item
Yeah,
to follow up on this topic about kind of locomotives.
yeah, I know just a repower was quite expensive, but
They're very expensive.
yeah,
I feel what Jeff's saying.
yeah. So yeah, Hector, let us get back to you on that, because I agree. Like, if we could get some of the locomotives out at CCTC replaced, that would be huge. I've been on them for a while. There is no requirement for them to clean up any, but they know it's important to us, and hopefully they're able to get some. I know that there were some new people coming into new positions, and that was one of the hesitancies about diving in too early, but we've had a chance for that to settle a little bit. So let me take the temperature there.
Thanks, Jeff.
Just wanted to throw in, if any of the incentives folks are here, either from your district or I don't know, from CARB, but I think there's a matching component too that might also be helpful to bring back to the conversation. Like the locomotive switchers, they'd have to match what would be provided through this, I think. Yeah.
I also believe that, but I think we can, we can follow up. That's traditional of all of our incentive programs, that we want there to be skin in the game for kind of the people that are applying. And so we typically will fund part of it, but there is almost, I think in most cases, an applicant share that they have to participate as well. Thanks.
I will say, on a bright side, we did just take order of a brand new, it's much smaller than a locomotive, but it's a rail car mover. So that was zero emission that we got through another opportunity.
That's awesome, Jeff. Awesome. And a good reminder that there's lots of great work we do through 617, but lots of other partners that are doing a lot of amazing work in the boundary outside of 617 too. So thank you, Jeff. All right, I'll kind of wrap us up here. I think I'm still sharing my screen. So the fourth category is for us to, as the CSC and kind of district, work together, and I'll add also kind of CARB and then other partners too, to continue to seek additional projects that could provide emission reduction benefits to the community. And so this is certainly something, our main priority, as I've kind of mentioned to you all, is we really want to work hard with you to continue to finish out the measures that we have in the SERP, because we know those are such highly prioritized measures. And those are really measures that were identified for their ability to reduce the kind of local sources of pollution that are in the boundary. And so that is our main priority. But I just want you all to know, I know that there, of course, with this type of process can be we just want you to know that we are thinking, and we know that you are thinking of like plan B. We just want to make sure that you're aware that we're thinking of these things. If it's the case, we really, really hope, and we want all of these projects to kind of finish out, especially with some of these high emission reducing measures like trucks and locomotives. But I think on the back burner, something we want you to know is that we are thinking about and want to have conversations with you all about maybe a plan B of what, we could potentially look to as other options. Some ideas of potentially where we could look, and actually I think this was a suggestion I heard from a couple folks, and I think I heard it even at a convening I went to a couple of Saturdays ago in Livermore, is potentially an idea of equipment replacement through agriculture. I hope it's okay, Margot. I might just give you a shout out because I know that you talked about this before in a couple of meetings, is directly within the community boundary. The measures that are identified in the SERP are really to help address those local sources of pollution that are within the boundary, but really kind of just in that surrounding area. And I know that obviously, you all kind of living in the community know this, is there are agricultural sources that are really just kind of near the community, that that obviously with their kind of impacts, it's not like the boundary has walls that suddenly pollution stops. We know that sometimes, things that happen outside of the boundary can impact in the boundary. And so that's something that we certainly, I've heard kind of from, one or two CSC members about this. And so I just want to bring it up to you all that that's something that we could consider as a group. And then, of course, to continue to explore additional opportunities for emission reduction projects, not yet included in the SERP as well. An example of this, again, that I'll just kind of dive a little bit deeper into of what maybe it could be a plan B, and I'm curious to see if folks have reactions or thoughts to this, is there are a huge number of tractor projects throughout the whole valley, some of those being in the near the Stockton area. This could be an opportunity for significant emission reduction benefits to the community. Our tractor replacement program is one of our most cost-effective grant programs. And what that means is for kind of the dollars we put into it, we get a ton of emission reductions, which is a really good thing. It's the most crucial, the most crucial thing for us, kind of improving air quality in the community locally and regionally, is to get those emission reductions. And we're also seeing a huge need and demand. There is kind of due to, I think, this is across the board for a lot of different programs, but the state budget this year was really tough, and we haven't seen funding come through for to support additional tractor replacements. And so there's a huge backlog of projects throughout really the whole valley, something in the realm of $700 million, which is about 7,000 projects. So which all of those alone can definitely provide a lot of emission reduction benefits. We did some, again, these are just initial. This is a first conversation, first blush of it. So we don't have a million, details that we'll dive into, but if this is interesting to folks, we can certainly bring back additional details. But we kind of provided some details about, within the boundary and maybe in the surrounding area, how many projects could potentially be in that space. Within the boundary, we have 3 tractor projects, but even just going 1 to 3 miles outside of the boundary, there's about 30 projects there. And kind of within a 7-mile area, there could be about 82 projects, potentially. That again, it is the case that, these tractors operating even in the surrounding areas do impact kind of the local boundary. So they could provide some, some emission reduction benefits, certainly to all of the residents in the Stockton boundary. And so I think I just have a couple last slides to wrap us up. And then I'll pause and take as many other questions that folks might have. Margo, maybe I have one last question, and then I'm just going to open up, or one last slide, and I'm going to open up to everyone's questions. Some things to think about is, again, this was our first kind of conversation about this. I know it was a pretty meaty topic and there's a lot to think about here, but we want to continue to work with you all. We had this conversation pretty early on in the process compared to some of our other communities, because we want to be able to continue to work with you all to finish out all of our SERP incentive measures, whether or not that's, finishing out the measures we have, doing more robust outreach, or potentially seeking kind of alternative options. Something that we also will do kind of in the next couple of months is discuss some of our SERP commitments that we have that aren't related to our incentive measures, things like our compliance measures and our outreach measures, kind of with an eye towards July 2026 being the end of that 5th year. But as you've already heard, we certainly want to continue working with you all well beyond that time. All right. So that's the slide deck that I have for you all. I'm happy to take any questions that folks have.
I see your hand up, Margo.
So I think at the last meeting and several meetings, we've talked about the potential for moving some money from heavy duty trucks to heavy duty chargers a little bit anyway. And to see that, the monies we had in heavy duty chargers has been taken up. I don't know where the port is, Jeff, on looking at heavy duty chargers, but to me, that seems like a likely spot to consider, just because you said you were seeing some electric trucks start to come in? What's your thought?
Yes, the only thing I would be hesitant about is like pulling in more trucks that don't need to be in the port area. I mean, that would be my concern, but we could maybe figure out how to make that work.
But you could use them potentially for your tenants.
We could potentially, yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Stephanie. That is also, I remember it's been a couple meetings that I know that I've gotten that suggestion. So I just want you to know our grants team is following threads on that, trying to follow up with other businesses and organizations in the boundary to see if anyone's interested in that. We still have funding for our resident, the more kind of the passenger vehicle type charging, but we have been following up with folks about the heavy duty charging too to see what kind of interest is in the community.
Hector, I see your hand up.
I just wanted to go back to the locomotives. I know that what we're looking at, they're required to match funding. Right now it's currently 50-50, right, with grant and the costs, their costs that they bear. Initial idea is I wonder if it's worthwhile to discuss with CARB whether we can move that needle somewhat to that our grant program bears a little bit higher of a cost, to really incentivize them to jump in and replace those locomotives.
This is Stephanie. I have maybe a first cut, and then I see Deldy unmuted, so I think
That's Stephanie. Go
okay. Yeah, so just, and I don't know, Hector, and I don't know, Nia, if you know this. I know it's not your program, but I don't know that it's 50-50. That's something I think the applicant share versus kind of what gets incentivized. That's something I think I don't know that that's 50-50, but that's something again, I want to follow up on. I don't know if Hector, you looked at that in guidelines or something. But that's something I just want to maybe clarify. But I will say that I think that is, and I think it could be an option. And I think that's something that I think, just so you all know, we're exploring kind of all avenues and options. I think the challenge that we had there, we've given this update a couple times in a couple different spaces where we talked about the kind of changes in the regulation. And I think what we were finding is when regulations kind of, and it was an interesting phenomenon that was happening, is that when regulations were in place, the window in which we could incentivize was shorter. And so we weren't able to kind of have as high cost. But I think with some of the changes in the regulation, we may be able to offer higher incentives. So that's something that we're exploring. But I do think, Deldy, I know we've had conversations of exploring pathways, maybe through project plans of maybe some alternatives of trying to get folks through the door with these programs.
Yeah, but baseline is we need a willing partner, right? We need a company to step up and say, yes,
yeah,
we want to work with you. So that's why we said earlier, we want to keep pushing. We certainly the district is, and we want to do our part to bring as much, flexibility to the table as possible to get these kinds of projects to happen.
Awesome. So yes, I think this is definitely part one of a larger conversation. I think the Air District is definitely like trying to prime folks to get like folks to start thinking about this. The main goals were really thinking about timeline, which I think we got some clarification on what that looks like the past fifth year. And we also got some really good feedback that Liz and I are working on taking notes and are creating a really good map of some of the current feedback that maybe will be helpful to revisit when we come back in the new year. But yeah, I think everyone for their initial, reactions to the categories, the feedback, and definitely the clarification. And Deldy, thank you for being here for the clarification on that timeline. So definitely want to reiterate, this is definitely just like part one, phase one of this conversation. And I think the Air District is more than welcome and planning to bring this back into the new year.
Yeah, thank you all for the feedback. And I know that Jared and Amy are tracking some really good notes. So I see a lot of things in the chat and just want you to know that that's all getting tracked in those notes. And I appreciate you all for engaging with that item. Thank you.
Yeah, again, so thank you, everybody. I think in the interest of time, we are able to transition to our next agenda item, which is the Residential Wood Smoke Reduction Program. So again, thank you all for participating. I think really providing some helpful, tangible feedback for the Air District moving forward. We will now move on to the Residential Wood Smoke Reduction Program. As we head into the winter season and as folks start burning more, the Air District will share an overview of the Residential Wood Smoke Reduction Program, including updates on outreach and enforcement efforts within the community. The goal of this agenda item is really just to make sure that everyone has a clear understanding of what the program is and what the current engagement efforts are. With that, I will turn it back over to the Air District.
Thank you, Jared. Hi, guys. This is Cassandra. I'm going to share my screen here. There we go. Okay, can you guys see that? Okay, perfect. So
It's
yes,
not in presentation mode.
Oh, shuffle. So, stop sharing. Allow to go to full screen. So beginning. And then hold on, let's share again. Sorry. Why won't that go off? Display settings.
It looks good to us, Cass.
Okay, can you, oh, sorry. I was like, did it go away? Sorry. Okay, perfect. So, hello, I'm going to talk to you guys about the residential wood smoke reduction program. So, public health impacts of wood burning. What we know is scientific research links prolonged inhalation of wood smoke to a variety of health effects. PM 2.5 is very, very detrimental to one's health. It's so tiny and microscopic that you can't see it, and it can bypass all our natural defenses and get really, really deep into the bloodstream. When that happens, it can aggravate asthma, bronchitis, it can flare out lung disease and decrease lung function for children. In adults, there's hypertension, heart disease, there's even links to cancer, heart failure, and neurological effects. So all in all, it's a very unhealthy type of pollutant. And we know that residential wood burning emissions are among the largest sources of direct PM 2.5 emissions during winter months. So because at nighttime, the temperatures get cooler, we get an evening inversion layer that pretty much acts like a lid, pushes all the emissions down to ground level. And that's the stuff that we breathe in when there's a lot of wood burning occurring within the neighborhoods. So because the PM 2.5 is harmful to one's health, we do have the Residential Wood Smoke Reduction Program. This runs from November 1st through the end of February. And essentially, it means that folks throughout the whole San Joaquin Valley have to check and see if their county is able to burn. There are 3 types of declarations, and we issue out these declarations every single day. The first one is no burning for all, which means that everything is shut down and nobody can use their device, their wood burning device. The second declaration is no burning unless registered. And so this is a special category where folks that have like an EPA clean certified device, they've registered through the Air District. They're given a permit where they can use their wood burning devices on those certain designated days that state no burning unless registered. The third declaration is burning discouraged. And this means that anybody can use their device on that day. One thing to point out is this rule also pertains to outdoor fire pits. So if Valley residents have an outdoor fire pit that utilizes wood to burn, the only time that they can use it is during the declaration burning discouraged. If you happen to have a propane fire pit where you're not using wood to light that up, then you can use that at any time. That would be exempt from our rules. So those are the three different categories. We do have incentives for this program where people can go and swap out if they have an open hearth fireplace or if they have an old wood stove. There is grant funding, which we talked a little bit earlier about in the previous slides. And the other option that was on there that wasn't mentioned is, let's just say a person doesn't want to fuss with wood and they don't want to have a heat pump. They can choose to decommission it altogether and just maybe like put up an entertainment wall, and we have funding for that. So that there's an option for that as well. And then lastly, we do have enforcement. So this is a rule that pertains to all 8 counties, and our team is available 24/7, and they will issue out tickets if they see that, Valley residents are not complying and they're burning on a day when they shouldn't burn. In terms of outreach, we have spent a lot of time educating the public about this. We have billboards that go up that showcase our governing board members that help support this program and encourage Valley residents to not burn. We spent a lot of time on social media, putting out posts in both English and Spanish. Again, letting people know that this is the time frame from November 1st to the end of February, letting them know that there's incentives to swap out their device. And then we even did a special campaign called the Believe It campaign, where we took actual Valley residents that have gone through the program and we showcased them and got to hear about their experience and how easy it was to switch it out. And we pushed those out for our commercials. So if there's anything that I can have you guys remember from this whole presentation, it's going to be this link, valleyair.org/burn status. This link is going to show and give you all the information that you're going to need in terms of, actually, let me just put it right here. In terms of seeing what the county declaration is. It will also give you the area for how to change out your current device. If you want to go through the grant program, it's easy step by step. And then it talks about, there's even a link for if you want to report a violation. So if it's a day that there shouldn't be any burning, and let's say that your neighbor down the street, there's smoke coming out, you can let us know. You can report the neighbor here. All of that information is confidential. We never share that. And then registering your device. If you have a good, clean EPA certified device, you can go here and register your device as well. So this webpage has a lot of information that is just super duper helpful. And like I said, if there's anything I can get you guys to remember, it's remember valleyair.org/burn status. And then Mary, I see you have a question.
No, just a comment, when you referred to the confidentiality, and I think that I think Catherine brought it up before. When we look at our enforcement list of addresses that somebody made a complaint and they find it, you list the resident who got the complaint, their name and their address, and it's recorded on the enforcement spreadsheet PDF file. So just FYI on that one.
Thanks, Mary. That's I guess just some context, and I do want to be open that we're open to, I think, making updates to that. Is I think just in transparency, we have tried to share kind of the information that we have related to all of our public complaints, so that's a part of that. But I do think that that's something that we don't necessarily have to share in some of our future reports. So that's good feedback, and we'll take that, and we can make updates to the, future reports.
And if you could include on that future report, when you issue a notice of violation, can you put the link to the document and then what was the resolution? So not just that you issued a document, but that compliance was achieved, when it was achieved, how any fines that were issued. That would also be very helpful so that we can have some confidence that the stick has some effectiveness.
Thank you. And Jeff, I see you have a question.
Yeah, I was gonna just follow up on Mary's comment, is that I've received some of those reports, and every time I've gotten them, at least the address has been redacted somehow. And so, but I understand it gives enough information on there that you could hone down fairly well. So yeah, that might be something to consider, is to just remove more of the whoever complained that information probably. That's all.
Yes, thank you, Jeff, because I don't no longer give them my address when I make for anything, because that ends up in the report as well.
And maybe just to clarify, not the person who made the complaint, the person, this is related to when we do issue violations. That's a typical thing that's been a part of the report, is the address, but not information of the reporting party.
Yes, it is. If I go outside and I smell something coming from the port or the city of Stockton wastewater treatment plant, and I put in my address where I observed uh, the odor, and you go out there a day or so later and you don't smell it, it's listed there and a complaint not verified. So just FYI on that one.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. So, like I mentioned, this website, and you guys can see the website, correct? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So it's got the smog info number listed up top. It even has the link to RAND, so you can check air quality conditions. And then if you are curious about more information about the residential wood burning rule 4901, all the documents are found there. So you can click on there, read through. So just an overall very, very helpful web page. Alrighty.
Just have a quick one on that. When just looking at those dates, it's been really windy. Why is burning discouraged in San Joaquin County today and tomorrow?
That's a good question. That would be, if it's been windy, then that means you might be getting a lot of movement going through. So there's not a lot of particulates that are setting and staying close to the ground level. I know that we had a short little storm system that came in, a low pressure system that came in. And so that was great for disbursement and helping to kind of clear out our area. So that might be why. And generally, we always see the northern counties just have better air quality than the counties south of you. So
Well, isn't burning discouraged as a bottom? Isn't that the bottom line? I mean, you never encourage it, right?
Well, burning discouraged means that air quality is good. And so if somebody would like to use their device, they can.
Right, but you never
But
No.
we don't encourage it, which is why it's worded discourage. But that just means that yes, if they want to use their device, they can, because air quality is good in the area.
Thanks. Yeah.
Mhm. Everett, you have a question?
Yes, yes, I did. I can use myself as an example. We did qualify for the a fireplace replacement, and they did not have the home is so old. They did not have a unit that would fit it. So, how would you transition over to maybe thinking about the electric fuel pump, electric pump? Sorry.
That would be a question for the hearth retailer. I would speak with them, and then you said they didn't have a unit that would fit. Did you check with multiple retailers? Because I know some carry certain devices and others carry different stuff. Just kind of
Well,
curious.
we had we had two gentlemen that came out and checked the measurement and everything, and I think it was only the one in Lodi that we did check with. We didn't check with multiple ones, but they were saying basically they didn't have anything that would fit that unit, and I thought they would sometime that they would make up, something for to fit one, but that didn't happen. So maybe I can check around and see if there's anyone else that can might be able to take a look at it.
Most definitely, that's something that I would definitely recommend, just because I also know from personal experience, I went through the program and there are only certain hearth retailers that only carry certain kinds of devices.
Okay.
So that is one thing when we get questions about this, we tell them, please, shop around with any type of hearth retailer that's going to service your area, and we can gladly send you a list of those retailers so that way you can see who will come out. So that way it kind of opens your options and gives you, gives you more options there if you'd like.
Thank you very much, Cassandra.
Everett, this is Margot. Modesto had several dealers who had fairly extensive inventory. I don't even think it was last year. I think it was the year before when you had that. Remember when you had that open house at Yasuyani's when they existed? And they worked very well with people. I don't know if it would fit or not. I'll try and find his name, Everett, and try and get it to you.
Perfect.
Thank you very much, Mark.
All righty. And then lastly, we have this postcard that we utilize. And the great thing about this postcard is it lists all three ways that one can file a complaint. As I mentioned, we have our inspectors on hand 24 hours. And so it's always best to let us know as you are seeing things occur, to then reach out to us so that way we can get the inspector out there on a timely manner, and so they can, document for themselves. But there's three ways that we can be notified. The first way is online, valleyair.org/complaints, or by calling through the telephone. Or if you have the app, which seems to be the easiest way, you can submit your complaint through the app. So 3 different ways. We try to make it as easy as possible. We even have little complaint magnets that we sent out. So at all outreach events, we're giving the magnets, we're giving flyers, just letting folks know that, they can definitely reach out to us, and then we can go out and see if there's an offense that's taking place. Outside of that, that is about it. Don't know if you guys have any other questions.
This is Heather. I have a comment. I just want to point out that even on burn days, residents can't burn trash. They can't have dark black smoke coming out of their fireplace. So it may be a burn day, but that isn't free reign for polluting. And so we still ask folks to report that that sort of activity in the same vein. Opacity, if you will, is definitely part of the rule as well. So I just wanted to note that.
And maybe one other thing I'll emphasize, I know Cass talked about it, but I think like Mary mentioned, we talked a little bit about kind of reporting a complaint, and it totally is an option that you can kind of submit as little or as much information as you want. If you want to follow up, you can certainly follow up and put your information there. You'll get a chance to understand kind of what happened with that investigation. But you could, it could be totally anonymous as well. And so all that being the case, that's the biggest tool I think you all have as eyes in the community to let us know when you see issues. We do a lot of proactive surveillance in the community when this time of year happens because we want to make sure we understand the impacts that neighborhoods can have. It's a super local source of pollution. And so we are doing that surveillance, but you all are other eyes in the community that are really helpful to us. So if you see something that you don't think should be happening, even if you're not 100% sure, certainly give us a call, use our app, use the website and let us know, and we'll certainly investigate it and be able to identify, is this person, is this a day that they can be burning? Do they have a device that, that it's allowable? And so we can kind of go through and check all those things, but we appreciate you all, certainly being the eyes in the community to let us know of these issues.
Any additional questions before we transition to standing updates? Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cassandra, and thank you so much for the Air District for highlighting that program. Everett, I think Heather sent some retailers in the chat that you can take a look at. I see you raised your hand. Did you have one last question, Everett? Okay. Well, if you do, feel free to leave it in the chat or, oh yeah, Everett. Okay. Well, Everett, come off mute whenever you can, but if not, feel free to type in your question in the chat. Um,
I was just lowering the hand. Go ahead. You guys go ahead.
all right, thank you so much. I think we can now transition to standing updates. So yeah, again, thank you all so much for such an engaging discussion and asking great questions about the programs. At this time, we'll be receiving some updates from some of the present agencies. Please feel free to ask any questions in the chat after the updates are completed. This week, we do have another special update from SJCOG. We will be hearing from Joelle Campos, who will be talking about the Unmet Transit Needs Assessment. And then we'll be hearing from some other local organizations, but I will pass it to you, Joelle from SJCOG.
Great, and I do have a slide deck. If I can share my screen, one moment. Thank you. Are you able to see my screen? Great.
Yes.
Wonderful. So thank you, Jared. My name is Joel Campos. I'm a senior regional planner here at the San Joaquin Council of Governments at the corner of Weber and American in downtown Stockton. And this is our annual Unmet Transit Needs Assessment. It's for FY 26, 27. And so we're conducting this for the next FY. And I'll explain briefly why we conduct it now for the future fiscal year. So I'm just going to go to the next slide. And that is because SJCOG must identify any unmet transit needs that may exist in San Joaquin County before funds are expended for non-transit uses, such as streets and roads, in the next FY. So we're conducting this assessment now, and then any recommendations go to the board, the SJCOG, San Joaquin Council of Governments Board, in June before the next fiscal year, which starts July 1. And so if any unmet transit needs are identified, a further evaluation is conducted to determine whether those unmet transit needs are reasonable to meet. So it's a two-step process that we are conducting. And give me a second here. Okay. And so what is an unmet transit need? Because the SJCOG board does define it as the Regional Transportation Planning Agency. And so they have defined an unmet transit need as transportation services not currently provided to those residents who use or would use public transportation regularly if available to meet their life expectations. And these are some places that folks may need to use public transit, but just to be a little bit more clear, what an unmet transit need is not, it's not in this definition, it would not be, it would not relate to perhaps bus stop amenities, right? Or maybe issues that happen perhaps on the bus, right? If there's, concerns on the bus themselves. However, the San Joaquin Council of Governments, we do receive all and any comments, and we would accept comments regarding, any bus stop amenities, whether like there's no bus stop shelter at this very popular bus stop or what have you. And so we do receive all comments and everything that the San Joaquin Council of Governments does receive during this assessment. We do disseminate that information to the transit operators. And there are many transit operators in San Joaquin County. There's the Manteca Transit, there's the Tracy Tracer, there's, of course, San Joaquin RTD, the Lodi Grape Line. In Escalon, they have the E-Trans, and Ripon, they have the Blossom Express. And actually, this calendar year, the city of Lathrop just started their own transit system as well, around the April timeframe. So in the city of Lathrop, they also operate their own transit system now. And so we again receive any comments between October 1st and December 31st. We'll ingest all that, we'll analyze that information, and we'll share that with the transit operators during this process. So we do welcome any and all comments, regardless of what's being said. However, for the purposes of the board making decisions regarding unmet transit needs prior to utilizing any funds for streets and roads, there is certain definitions. And so with that, again, I'm going to move on to the second phase. If we do receive basically essentially comments regarding service where there is not service, like an example could be, into a new development, right? Uh, Hundreds of homes were built here and there's no transit service in this area or this part of town, or to that new shopping center so that we can go grocery shopping. And so when we receive those comments, and then we utilize these five factors to determine whether they're reasonable to meet. So we evaluate those comments based on equity, on operational feasibility for the operators, potential transit ridership. Is there demand? And so we evaluate the potential ridership because the transit systems or the transit operators, they have to look and determine if service would have a certain threshold when it comes to ridership potential. We also take a look at cost effectiveness of the service and then funding as well. And so this is all evaluated after December 31st, after we received all the comments. And this is evaluated through one of the San Joaquin Council of Governments' subcommittees. That subcommittee is called the Social Services Transportation Advisory Council. And so they'll, again, receive all the comments, they'll evaluate them, and they'll make a recommendation to the SJCOG board, again, in June. So with that, how do we receive those comments, and what is required by law? SJCOG must hold public hearings. So we had one recently, this past Tuesday at our Social Services Transportation Advisory Council. And the next public hearing is actually at the next San Joaquin Council of Governments board meeting, which is the first Thursday of December. That's going to be the last board meeting of the year for San Joaquin Council of Governments. It's going to be again held, I believe that is, and I'm just pulling up a calendar. I think it's December 4th, I'm guessing. Again, the first Thursday in December. Yes, December 4th. That's going to be at 4 o'clock. And that's going to be another public hearing regarding unmet transit needs. And then we conduct presentations like this. We conduct them in Tracy, Mountain House, Lodi, Manteca, all over the county, just building awareness for this assessment. Also, we share social media posts, with our partner organizations. So if you're looking for material and would like to help us spread the word on our unmet transit needs assessment, please reach out to us so that we can share graphics and material with you. And then everything points towards a survey that we conduct, and that's how we capture all the comments. So this is an example of a postcard that the San Joaquin Council of Governments disseminates. So we disseminate and distribute these postcards at all the transit centers throughout the county. So at the RTD regional transit center or downtown transit center right here on Weber, at the Tracy Transit Center, Manteca Transit Center, Lodi Transit Center. So these postcards are there just to build that awareness. They're in English and Spanish. They're double-sided. We ask folks to take the survey. They could also email us, and they can email me directly at Campos, that's CAMPOS, at sjcog.org. But we definitely encourage them to utilize the survey. It's a 15-question survey, and that's how we capture the comments. I'm going to briefly go over the last few slides here. So again, how does this process take place? Well, we receive comments, again, preferably through a survey between October 1 and December 31st. And then SJCOG staff will evaluate and analyze and filter everything we receive. We'll take all that to an unmet transit needs comment review committee, a subcommittee. They will evaluate those comments, bring it to our Social Services Transportation Advisory Council. They will develop a final recommendation that'll go to the SJCOG board, again in the June timeframe of next year. So that is the process for our unmet transit needs assessment. And again, we encourage everyone to take the survey, and we can definitely share these slides with you all after this meeting. So that is our unmet transit needs assessment. I want to take this moment, and I'm just going to take it briefly, to mention one other program for our partners out there that's not related to unmet transit needs assessment. And that's just because the deadline for this is November 12th, next week. I just want to share that there is a program out there through the California Public Utilities Commission. It's called the TNC Access for All. There's around $280,000 right now available for nonprofits in San Joaquin County that want to expand wheelchair accessible vehicles within the county. And again, I'm just kind of reading down here. $280,000 available for San Joaquin County to expand wheelchair accessible vehicles for on-demand transportation services. So if you guys are, representatives of nonprofits that offer transportation services, please feel free to reach out to me. You have until November 12th to apply for some funding. So with that, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share.
Yeah, thank you so much. Are there any questions for Joel?
I have a question. I think Catholic Charities would be interested. We do have the senior ride program. And we were looking to maybe transition to more energy efficient electric vehicles. So that would be an option for us. I'm not sure whether we've reached out or whether we applied before, but I'll definitely talk to my director. Would it be possible? Would you be able to drop a flyer in the if you have it?
Yeah, let me go ahead and
chat?
take a look. Absolutely. And are you talking about Martha?
Yes, Martha.
Okay, yes. I'll reach out to Martha tomorrow. She did apply for that program that RTD runs, And so I understand that you guys did apply for that. This is an additional $280,000 for the San Joaquin County region. So I will reach out to her. Thank you for that. I'll reach out to her.
Absolutely.
Thank you
so much. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you so much again. With that, we can continue through our standing updates, and I will quickly go through and see. I see Carb is on our call today. Carb, do you have any updates you would like to share today?
Oh, hey, thanks, Jared. I just have two. This is Brian with Carb, and just real quickly, I wanted to share some information on our AB617 consultation group, which is our multi-stakeholder group that helps direct the program. And we have members here, Mary Elizabeth and Margot Prowse participate on that, as well as Stephanie and Ryan Hayashi from the Air District. So we had our first meeting back on September 8th, and we have our second one coming up in early December, December 3rd. So I'll just put a link in here to the the September 8th meeting, and you can watch the video. Also, when we get more information and the materials for December 3rd, I can pass it on. Oh, go ahead, Mary. Do you want to add about the consultation group?
Yeah, so there was a convening or a technical meeting that happened November 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
And did everybody here receive an invitation to attend that meeting?
And that was the peer-to-peer
yeah.
convening we did on the 3rd?
Yeah.
This is Stephanie. I can confirm we on behalf of Carb shared that out with all of our CSEs.
Well, I would encourage everybody. I don't think I saw too many people, or I don't even know if I saw anybody else that was at that meeting. But it was
Dr. Farrell,
okay.
Dr. Farrell was there.
Okay, Dr. Farrell, what do you find that it was interesting and a benefit?
Yes, it showed some future plans for the downtown section of Stockton, and with how they are be eliminating street services as it known now, and making it so that you wouldn't be with 5 minutes from work, as well as businesses and entertainment.
Thanks,
You
Dr.
can use a
Farrell.
bike.
This is Stephanie. I actually think Mary might be talking about a different meeting. It was, I don't think it was related. I'm hearing you talking about the city, Dr. Farrell. This is an opportunity that I think we emailed out a couple weeks ago about a peer-to-peer series that Carb is putting on. I know I saw Hector chime in that I know Tanisha was there too.
And Nate was there. I ran across Nate at that one when I attend. So I'm not. I must got them mixed up. Okay, apologize.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Farrell.
There's lots of meetings, no doubt. And, it would probably be a good idea, somehow, if we can have maybe a place, a community, a document, where community meetings can, be added where, people can like try to keep track of them all. But it was very interesting, and I think that as we move forward into next year, there'll be another one early next year. I would definitely encourage you, if you're able to make that meeting, to go. It was a lot of learning that went on.
Oh,
Thank
awesome.
you.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, Mary Elizabeth. And that was my second item. So yeah, it was the peer-to-peer network. And so this brings together community members, Air District staff, like any interested stakeholders that participate in the AB617 program, to meet each other, discuss, and kind of brainstorm. And so, yeah, I'm glad you liked it, Mary Elizabeth. And anybody who attended, if you have any suggestions for us or comments on how it could be better, please email me. I'll put my email in here as well, or anybody on our staff. And I did want to put a link, just a big topic at that first one was some research that Jonathan London from UC Davis did, kind of tracking program implementation with the community air protection program. So I put a link to the information to the paper and the research project that he discussed at that first meeting. And again, feel free to put my email here if anybody has any questions about the peer-to-peer or suggestions, comments. We welcome them. We want to make it a valuable thing for everyone, for sure. Oh, and that's all I have, Stephanie.
Thank you so much, Brian. I want to see, Air District, do you all have any updates you'd like to share tonight?
I will just quickly share that we do have, and you all should have gotten an email about it. We sent out a couple weeks back the draft annual report. I know we talked about it in the last meeting, but that's an opportunity that we've sent out to provide feedback. And so I'm just checking about the deadline for it, November 21st. So we have a little bit more time here. We wanted to make sure you all had ample time to review it. Take a look at it. We'll send a reminder email about it as well. But definitely feel free to share your feedback. You can email us, call us, you can even set up another meeting, let us know, and we'll have to chat. That's it. Thanks, Jared.
Thank you so much. And then Port of Stockton, do you have any updates you'd like to share?
Hi, yes, this is Julia. So just a couple quick updates. So we just wrapped up our back to school clothing drive for Washington Elementary. So thanks to everyone that participated. And also we will be launching our winter clothing drive for them. So we'll make sure an updated flyer gets out to everyone in this group. We're accepting all different types of clothing, sizes. So if you're cleaning out your closets, we're accepting everything for child clothing to adult sizes. So, and the goal is to build a community closet that families can access year round. And so I'll put my contact information in the chat and also the drop off location. And then also another exciting update is that we were selected to win 2 American Association of Port Authorities Lighthouse Awards for the Tenant Jobs Board. And so this has been great in helping us keep the momentum with getting the community and tenants signed up. And so we do have 10 jobs currently posted. And so if you know anyone that's looking for a job, please share this information with them and I will put the information in the chat. And then Jeff, did you have any updates you wanted to add in?
Sure. Yeah. And yeah, that was really exciting to win those because yes, as Julia said, we need that momentum and opportunity to talk about it some more. So yes, please send direct folks to that jobs board. We've had some tours over the past few weeks. The group from Boggs Track Community Center, they do have a new executive director over there. So we had the opportunity to meet her and then give their staff a tour so they have a little bit better understanding of the port and our operations and what our missions and goals are. And then we also had a tour for the edible schoolyard. The same with them is really just to help them to understand what we're working with and for us to get a better understanding from them as well. So that was really, really good. And then Stockton, the city hosted the California Economic Summit. That was started Tuesday, October 21st, and the port was proud to be one of the legs on a tour for about 56 people, I believe, came through. We were able to show them all the operations and all the exciting new things that are happening in our emission reduction program, and as many of you have seen. And so that was really exciting to be able to share that, bigger picture across the entire, with folks across the entire state. And then from there, they went on to see Mormon Slough and a restoration project. And then I met back up with them later on at the Green Economy Lab, where Sandy Pabin was sharing about the workforce development opportunities for zero emission cargo handling equipment. So that was really, really cool. And then I already shared the news about the new electric rail car mover that just arrived, but that's awesome too. So we've continued on our efforts to bring in equipment that reduces emissions, and so really excited about that. And so we'll share more about that at our Port Outreach Committee meeting, which is the third Wednesday of every month. So we look forward to seeing everybody there. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff. I do want to be mindful of time. It is 6:59. I think we can email out our action items that we have. But also wanted to, yeah, just really quick before wrapping up tonight's meeting. Um, this is the last meeting of the year, and so originally we were slated to meet January 7th of 2026 would be the first meeting of the new year. We did get some feedback that I think last year we did go dark in December and January because of how close it felt to New Year's Eve last year. And so we wanted to temperature check really quick. If folks, we're already scheduled to go dark for December, but if the CSC thought it would be helpful to meet in January or start the year meeting in February as we did last year. So yeah, we'll pause to see if there's any like reflections or anything coming up for folks with either meeting in January or meeting in February.
For me, I like meeting in January, starting early. We are pushing close to the end of our cycle, so I think, there's still a lot of work to get done. So I would like to continue on the process of meeting.
I agree with Hector. This is Margot.
Dr. Farrell, I agree. January, please.
Is there any opposition to meeting in January? Not hearing any opposition, then it seems like we will meet on our next scheduled meeting, which is January 7th, 2025. We will also, oh, 2026, my apologies. I will fix that and correct that. And we will also email action items as well. Mary Elizabeth, I did see your hand up. I do want
Yes,
to
yes,
honor
yes.
you.
There's an announcement. If anyone here would be interested to serve on the Citizens Advisory committee for the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District, there's a need for an alternate. And, there's been a little bit of problem with finding someone because you have to go to Modesto. So you can get on a Zoom call or whatever technology is used in Modesto to communicate with the people in Fresno. And I just really do not see, why somebody could not be in Stockton and get on a Zoom meeting to perform that alternate duty. But there is an interest. I'm going to put my email. You can and Margot, you're going to put your email in here. If anyone is interested, please contact us and we can help facilitate that as you're representing the environment.
Yes, it's an environmental position. And Ned Leba is our main representative, and we're looking for the alternate for that. As an alternate, you only have to be at the Modesto office if you are going to be the one voting. So otherwise you could be on Zoom from Stockton, but it is kind of the thing. So it could be an interesting position. So think about it. Let us know.
Thank you so much, Mary Elizabeth, and thank you so much, Margot. Well, we are now at the end of our meeting. Yeah, I really want to be respectful of folks' time and the commitment that you all gave tonight, but also just really are grateful for the CSC, all that was accomplished this year, everything that was shared as we were planning for the next year tonight. And we really just like value everyone's time. Before we hop off, do you want to hold a minute just to see if there's anyone from the public that would like to make a quick comment? But if not, we will email out action items. Everything will be uploaded as usual. And we will see each other January 7th, 2026, which is crazy to think about. But if not yet, thank you so much. And I hope everyone has a safe holiday season. I'm sure the Air District will be communicating between now and then, but thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. And yes, we're still around. Don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions. And we will send updates to you all next month in kind of lieu of the meeting.
Yes, we will, Stephanie. Have a great day, young people. God bless you. Be safe.
Everybody have a lovely
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you all. Take care.